My name is Laurel Rutledge. I am the CEO of LaurelRutledge.com, the creator of the Rutledge Perspective podcast, and now I am the host of the Rutledge Perspective on KCOH-TV, The Boost, and I am so excited. My background in human resources and also in business and consulting has given me the opportunity to share information with all of you, and what we're going to do is talk about the foundational pieces, whether or not you're building a business or you're building a career. It all comes down to strategy and people. If you don't know where you're going, how do you know who needs to be on your team? So please join me, join in the conversation, catch the show both on the radio, on the app, and also on Facebook. And I will be on Tuesdays from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Thank you so much for listening. I look forward to seeing you there. Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is Talk It Out Tuesday with Laurel and Jerry. You like that, Jerry? I am so excited. I love Tuesdays. And I want to give a shout out to Navasota, Texas. And I see somebody from Austin, Texas, and Orlando, Florida, and Columbus, Ohio, and St. Louis, Missouri, and the UK and Germany are on. Woo-hoo! So glad you're here. And Sugar Land, Texas, and Spring, Texas. Thank you for joining me on the Rutledge Perspective today. Today we're going to be talking about expectations. And I got on a new mask today, and I haven't decided if I really like it or not. I mean, I love it, actually, but it's a different kind of material, so you may see me adjusting. Just overlook me. So we're going to be talking about expectations today, but let me start with PSAs like I always do. You still have time to do your census. Please, please, please do your census. It is important that we have the right numbers so that we have the right level of representation. And if you don't respond, then we don't get the kind of representation that we are entitled to. So please answer your census. We also have some primaries coming up. So, and I'm going to talk about my little necklace. Y'all see my little necklace says vote? See that?
Oh, I didn't know.
I love it. We have some primaries coming up. So May 19th is Oregon. Hawaii is the 22nd of May. And then Maryland is the 2nd of June. So again, make sure you've done all your registration. Make sure you have your voter ID card, even though supposedly some places you need certain IDs, some places you don't. Just make sure you know the rules wherever you are so that you do not lose your voice and your right to vote. Find out where your primary is, find out when your primary is, can you do it absentee? Just get information so you can know that you don't lose your vote. So it's really important to do that. Now, I am continuing my webinar series, Taking the Panic Out of Pandemic. It's a free webinar series. You don't have to pay me anything. It is free. I'm just wanting to share some information, but you do have to register so we know how many people are coming, because we try to close the meeting so that it is a little bit more secure. So we lock the meeting after a certain period of time. So please consider it. You can sign up or register at don'tpanic.laurelrutledge.com. Don'tpanic.laurelrutledge.com. And this week, I'm really excited because we're going to be talking to two people. One of them owns an insurance agency. She happens to be out of California, but she's got agents all over the country. And we're going to be talking about, what do you need to do with your health insurance? What if you've been furloughed or worse? What if you have been let go? What do you do about your insurance? What about COBRA? How do you make sure you maintain coverage? And she's fantastic. She came out of the financial services industry before she started her own firm. And then that's Debbie Hoffman. And then I have Jen Miramontes, also out of California. But what's amazing about Jen is she started this thing called Cancer Champions. Her story is incredible, and I'll have their bios up. But Jen is one of only 500 people worldwide, hear me? 500 people worldwide who is a certified cancer fitness specialist. So she really focuses on nutrition and exercise and all of those aspects for people who are battling cancer, either just diagnosed all the way through recovery. But we're going to talk a little bit, not only on the insurance side, but then with Jen about wellness. How do we keep our routines going? How do we make sure we're staying healthy? How do we, if we are living with someone or we are someone who is compromised, what are some of the things that we can be doing? So Jen's going to be fantastic. So join me that's Thursday. It's going to be 12 noon Pacific and 2 Central. Don'tpanic.laurelrutledge.com. I think those are the big ones. Oh, and we're going to try to get Adrian back on too. So Adrian, if you're listening, we need to figure out your schedule because I need you to come back. I'm kind of far from the mic, aren't I? Okay, let me move up. So let me tell you all about my necklace. So my necklace says vote. And y'all know that every day, every day or every show. Sorry, y'all. See, that's what happens when you're in a studio, when there are windows. Yeah. And when you got a focus challenge like I do. I always talk about voting because I don't miss a time to vote. I don't miss a chance to vote. I love voting day. The fact that my show is on Tuesday, Jerry, I'm like, this is so cool because that's voting day. But a friend of mine who is running for city council for the very first time, I saw her and she had on this necklace that said vote. And I was like, oh my gosh, that is so cool. Well, this showed up in my mail the other day from Leela. She's in California. Thank you, Leela. And the woman's story is fantastic. And her name is Karen Grunberg, Gruenberg. And she has a fantastic story. And this is jewelry that she makes. And so this piece of jewelry that says vote. So I may just be wearing this until November. I'll definitely be wearing it on our voting day.
Okay.
But I may just be having this on, off and on. So those are all the announcements for today. And today we're going to be talking about expectations and managing expectations, setting expectations for yourself, for your teams, for your life, for your business, whatever that is. And for me, what really drove me to talk about this today is the last few days I've gotten a chance to talk to 3 amazing women for my podcast. Just absolutely amazing women. One of them I'm hoping to have on the show when we are able to open up the studio, actually have her come into the show, which would be amazing. And she's here in Houston. Her name is Kyra. She is the CEO of the Kyra Company. And so hopefully we'll be able to have her on personally. But as I was listening to these women and their powerful stories, and that's why I have my little shirt on. Normally I don't wear stuff that has words on it, but this shirt just spoke to me this morning. And well-behaved women seldom make history. You have to make waves. You have to make waves in order to make an impact. And that was kind of the common theme I heard from these women. So all of them had been in corporate at some point. One of them is still in corporate and is now leading HR for the Americas region for one of the biggest chemical companies in the world. The other 2 now have their own businesses. And one of them came out of media, like radio, and worked for Prince at one point, which just makes her cool on a whole different level. And the thing that came out in working with or talking with all of them was, it is really important to understand that all of your experiences, good, bad, hard, easy, ugly, painful, all of your experiences serve to build a foundation that make you the leader that you are, or make you the person that you are, or give you the insight to be able to handle whatever comes your way. So while we don't enjoy pain and we don't enjoy hard times and we don't enjoy when things happen to us that aren't what we want, the fact that we go through those and survive those is what makes us who we are and what makes us able to serve others. So that was one thing that they said that was in common. The other thing that they said that was in common was really understanding and being confident in your own gifts. So the things that you have been given, the gifts that you have, the skills and dispositions that are uniquely yours. So there are a ton of people who coach. There are a ton of people who consult. There are a ton of people who do HR. There are so many people doing the same work. However, whoever you are, no one does the work the way you do the work. No one, because you are uniquely you. So even if you are one of 400 million coaches or 5 million HR people or whatever it is, no one does your work the way you do your work. And so the people who need you will seek you out. Because most likely, if you're a fit for them, then the other person isn't a fit for them. Because that's about personality, that's about connection. So own your gifts, own your strength, own the things that make you uniquely you. Because that's what gives you an ability to connect. That's what gives you an ability to put out into the world those things that enable you to serve. And so while you own those gifts and are really excited about those gifts and are proud of those gifts, however you came about them, the other piece that was consistent among these women is we also have to be really clear about our gaps. I won't call them weaknesses because I don't think every gap is a weakness. But we do need to understand what our gaps are. And when you understand them, and when you are confident in your gifts and in your capabilities, and when you know who you are, and more importantly, whose you are, you can look at those gaps or those weaknesses, if that's what you care to call them, and you have the confidence to find people around you who fill those. And we've talked about that before, right? When you're building your team, hire people to help you do what you can do. So you may have vision, you may be a strategic person, you may be a visionary, but you may hate detail. Hate it, hate it, hate it. So then you find somebody who is detail oriented. They are going to dot the I's, they're going to cross the T's. They're going to be able to get your vision, but they are not the visionary, but they are the executor. So you want to make sure you are surrounding yourself with people who fill the spaces that are empty for you. The other thing you want to do with getting people around you is you want to make sure that people around you, that you're willing to ask around you for answers that you need. One of the people I talked to said, you know what, I go find the people that have the answer I need. Because if I don't have it and I need it, then I need to go find the person who has it. You know, and when she said it like that, I'm like, that's so simple. It's so simple. I don't have the answer. I need the answer. I go find the answer. However, the challenge in doing that is you have to be willing to first admit you don't have it. Okay, this mask is killing me. You have to first admit you don't have the answer. And then you have to be willing to do what's necessary and to ask for help. As Clarence Avant said, you don't get if you don't ask. And so ask for help. There is no shame in saying, I don't know. There's no shame in saying, I don't know. There's no shame in saying, I need help. Now, the third thing, I think I'm on 3. The third thing that was in common with these women is all about relationships. All about relationships. And we've talked a little bit about relationships before, but not too much in depth. And the thing that was common for them was, one, relationships have to be authentic. So you have to come to a relationship with truly who you are, who you really are, right? Not who you want to be, not who you want people to think you are, but who you are. And you also have to come at a relationship from the standpoint of, yes, this relationship is important to me because there's something that I need, but what can I give to the other person? Real relationships and good relationships and strong relationships are partnerships. It's not just about what you get. It's about what you give. And so these women, these incredible, these brilliant, hardworking women got that. And they're being successful. And they're being successful because they realize, yes, they are gifted, they are talented, they are strong. If they're going to bet on anybody, they're going to bet on them. And they are confident enough to say, I don't know that. Or that's not my wheelhouse. Or I need to go find somebody to help me with that, and then do that. They don't sit in overwhelm. They don't sit in a space of, oh my gosh, but if I ask, then somebody's going to know I don't know, and what are they going to think? You know, who cares? Because what somebody else thinks about you is not your business.
That's right.
Just do what you need to do for you. So I encourage you, as we go through today and talk about managing expectations and setting expectations, to really get clear and honest with yourself. One of them, and you'll hear this on my podcast, I think the podcast with Kyra is going to come out week after next. Week after next. And one of the things she talks about is journaling. And I journal too. And for those of you who journal on a regular basis, you know, I go back and look at mine. I've gone back and looked at some of my journals from from college, from grad school, from some really great times and some really tough times. And I can always tell how I was feeling. Good morning, Odessa, Texas. I can always tell how I'm feeling. And good morning, Oregon. I can always tell how I'm feeling by what my journal looks like. If I can read it, I was in a good place. I was focused. I was driven. If I can't read it, something was wrong. And I mean, really can't read it. Like, I know those are words, but they just look like scribble. And what Kyra was saying is, you know, yes, it's important to journal. And it's important to really use that as a process, especially for those of us who are visual. And there's a connection. There's a psychological connection between the movement of your hand and the thought processes in your brain. And so they even said lately, with colleges and stuff, everybody takes notes on their computer, on their tablet. and that there's actually greater strength and greater sticking power, greater stickiness if you're actually taking notes by hand. There's something about the hand-brain connection. And I'm not a psychologist, so I can't explain it to you, but that's what I've read. And so, what Kyra says is, yes, she does that journaling, and she journals about her intentions and about her business and her strategy. But what she also does is she takes time to say, I'm going to write down all of those things about me that are really good. I'm going to write down those things about me that are unique to me, that are my gifts, that are the things that make me proud of me and make me excited to be me. And I'm going to go back and I'm going to revisit those on a regular basis as well. Because it's very easy for us, especially as we are trying to pivot, especially those that are pivoting right now. If you're trying to pivot, is to focus on the stuff that's not ready. What's not ready? What's not right? What do I not have? How come I can't do this? Or these are the reasons I can't do this. And if you give yourself an opportunity to have a journal or a list or something that says to you, no, here's the things that are really good about me, then you can put your mind in a place that gives you a catapult and a foundation to move forward. Because it's all about forward. It doesn't have to be huge steps. Baby steps are fine. Forward is forward. But if you are sitting in a place of, I can't, I won't, how come, it's not going to happen, I don't deserve it, all of that stuff, we become what we think. We become what we think. And so if you're thinking it's not possible, if you're thinking you're not worthy, if you're thinking you're not smart enough, not good enough, insert whatever thing here, then that's what's going to manifest. It just is what it is. So if you really want to make a change, if you really want to pivot, if you really want to do something different in your business, you got to find out what it is that's holding you back and is making you believe things that may not be true about you. Now, you got to own your own stuff, and I know I got some. But it is what it is, and I know me. And some of that stuff I try to change, and some of that stuff is just who I am. And I just got to deal with that and understand the consequences of that. For example, I can be fairly patient until I'm not. And so I can go a long time, and I can work with somebody a long time, and I can tolerate a lot because my thought process is always, this is not about me. There's something else going on here. Let me just focus on the issue, not on the person. But there does reach a point in time where I'm done. Yeah. And when I'm done, I'm done. I'm not angry. I'm not irritated. I'm not going to call you out of your name or any of that kind of stuff, but I'm done. And that is something about me that is also a way to protect my energy because I'm very much an introvert. I'm very much an empath. So I absorb other people's energy. So if their energy is negative energy, that really weighs on me. And so a way to protect my energy so that I can use my energy in a way that is productive, not only for me, but in my ability and desire to serve others, I can't have a whole lot of drama.
Right.
I can't have a whole lot of drama. I can't tolerate it. I don't have the capability to tolerate a whole lot of drama. And I know that about me. And so instead of getting in some kind of crazy fight or irritation, I just walk away. I just say I'm done. Love you, mean it. Gotta go. And we move on to something else, right? So you gotta know you. You have got to be really clear about you and really clear and aware of your strengths, of your weaknesses, of your desires, and of your deal breakers. Because you need to know those too, because there are things where you need to walk away.
Yeah.
And you got to be okay when you walk away. And we will make mistakes. You got to be okay with mistakes. We all make mistakes. So you got to be okay with those. So as we think through this setting of expectations, and no, that is not COVID, y'all. That is all this wind in Houston and all this tree pollen. Yeah. My car was just yellow. As we think about setting those expectations and we really look at relationships and how we're going to move forward as Texas opens up, because Texas is now open, y'all. And I'll leave that there.
What does that mean, though, that Texas is open?
So what's interesting to me about that is if you made a choice to go back to normal, you actually have the opportunity to do that right now. You can go sit in a restaurant. I think you can now go to most doctor's offices. Dentists are open. You can go get your nails done. You can get your hair done. Ooh, I got a hair appointment on May 26th. Woo-hoo! You can do all of those things that we did before, theoretically. Now, what we're asking people to do is still be safe, right? So only 50% capacity at restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
Still stay 6 feet apart. Gyms are open. Good gyms are actually like my trainer showed me her CrossFit box. I'm not a CrossFit person, but they're, as they call the gyms, the CrossFit gyms, CrossFit boxes. Showed her CrossFit box, and they have actually outlined on the floor with tape. Here is your space, and every space has all of the equipment you'll need to do a workout. So you don't have to share equipment. You don't nothing, and you are to wipe down everything when you come in, including yourself. And then when you leave, you wipe down everything again. And they wipe down everything, right? But they've limited the number of people. They've added classes, but they're being really clear about what safety means to them.
Okay.
And so, to me, when it says Texas is open, it's like in some ways we can go back to doing what we did before. And I think some people are. My concern is what open means to me is you still should be cautious. If you don't have to go out, don't go out. And if you do go out, even if you don't care about you, care about the other people who may be compromised. So keep your mask on, even if it's irritating you.
You know, but before they even announced it on yesterday, was it yesterday they announced it?
Yes.
The club across the street is wide open. It's open. It's packed on Sundays now. Other place down the street is wide open. And we hadn't had any people having to park in the parking lot.
Right.
But now Pete is saying, you know, the parking lots are back. That's good for him because that's how he makes money as well.
Right.
But it's like, are they really still practicing social distancing? And is it really only 50%?
You know, so here's the deal about people. What's that old saying? Give an inch, they'll take a mile.
Right.
When some people hear open, they think open. Okay, I can go back to everything that I was doing before. Okay, well, yes, you can. This is not for me. This is not a question of can or can't. This is a question of should or shouldn't. Should you be all up in the club with 400 people? You can. If they're allowing it and it's open, you can. But should you? And I don't think people are thinking about should or shouldn't. People are thinking about can or can't because we haven't been able to. We've been in a mode of can't for almost 3 months, right? So people are not thinking can or can't anymore. They're thinking I can go anywhere I want to go now. And yes, you can. And the threat is not gone. The threat is not gone. So should you still do that? I don't know. I personally am still going to be cautious.
Yeah, and I think it is now. It's a personal decision, but at the end of the day, it's really not personal because your decisions really can affect someone else's decision. And you saw on the news where they had the club was packed to capacity at a place called Prospect Park, and the people were still out. Do you know if there's any laws going to be enforced if you're over capacity? Because the laws look like they're out the window. People are doing basically what they want to do.
I know. You know, I think the challenge is, and we heard this very early on in Harris County, even with masks, when they were going to fine people if you didn't have a mask on. I think part of it is law enforcement is overworked, right? There's not necessarily enough. And do we want to take their capacity and have them now checking on parties and shutting down parties that are overwhelmed? So I don't know that it's that the laws aren't going to be followed or that they're not going to follow up on them or that they're not going to break things up, because I saw this morning on the news where police did break up something that was just crazy. I just think if there's a resource constraint, I also think there are some that are like, you know what, I either go figure out why somebody robbed this gas station or I go shut down this party.
Right.
And so they are also making a choice about what's more important and what's more critical. So, you know, I don't know. The laws are there, at least for now. I think it depends.
I saw some on my way to work that I had never noticed, and I don't know if they just put it up yesterday or whenever. But there's a big billboard on 45 saying "Mask Up" with the mayor on there with a mask. Have you seen that?
That's great. I have not seen that one.
Yeah.
I have not seen that one. Because theoretically we're not supposed to have we're supposed to have masks on anytime you're outside until the 31st in Harris County. I don't think they changed that. Right when she first announced
Somebody
it.
changed something because I went to the store and they're not wearing masks and they're even moving some of the social distancing signage.
But I think that's just, I don't know that that's, I think that maybe people just doing it. But then again, I've been trying to stay away because it just, again, that all that negativity just, I can't.
Yeah.
So I don't know, Jerry. I in my mind, it's again about expectations. And when you see all those people that were in Florida who are like, well, we were on the beaches, but we didn't know that it was a real deal. How you don't know now that this is a real, I just can't even with that. But there are still a lot of people who don't believe that it can impact them, that don't believe that masks matter. And if you read it, you know, the science says masks do help, but they're not 100%. Mm-hmm. There's nothing that's 100%, right? But the masks aren't 100%. And so people read that and say, well, see, if masks aren't going to prevent it, then why do we wear them? Okay, but if it at least helps minimize risk, this is about risk management. It's about risk management. We already know we can't really prevent it other than truly everybody staying home. That's the only way to truly prevent it. But if you're going to minimize your risk, what can you do to minimize your risk if you care? Because I think there are a lot of people who don't care.
Well, there's a lot of dads who wish they didn't have to pay child support because they chose not to wear what they needed to do. Even if that's not 100%, at least it could have kept you on child support.
You know what? I mic drop on that one. So, you know, and there are a lot of memes about that too, right now. Yeah, I just think it, when we think about our expectations and what we want people to do and how we go forward, what are our individual expectations of how our life is going to move forward? And if we are thinking individually, you know, I've got to get back to work, or I'm tired of being in my house, or I just want to get my car washed, or whatever. And our expectation is, well, I'm just running out real quick. It's not going to be bad. But every person does that, right? Then there is a really high risk that any kind of stabilization that we've had goes away. Because everyone's expectations have been, well, my risk is minimal because I'm just running to the store. I'm just going to go wash my car. I'm just, you know, whatever the thing is. And so, you know, expectations aren't just about your own behavior, but they're about the impact of your behavior on other people.
You know, I think about that when you come into the studio. I've been in here without a mask on doing my show because I'm the only one in here. But prior to you coming into the studio, I am spraying everything down with Lysol and wiping everything down with Lysol. And then I put on my mask for your protection and was doing that even earlier when it started. For your protection. And then you still come in and wipe it down. I don't think that level of responsibility everybody is doing. And so imagine if you're coming behind somebody who's been talking. Right. And there's no security there that they've taken care of their business. We are hurting people if we're not looking out for the next person. Wow. We are. And, you know, and those expectations around cleanliness, you know, if you think about, you know, my gym is actually a personal training facility. It's not your traditional gym. So anyone that comes in there is actually getting personal training, not doing just individual workouts. So it's a little bit different. And they've been so clean that equipment's starting to rust. I mean, literally, right? Wow. So much so that they sent out an email and said, you might want to start wearing your old workout clothes because every time you use a piece of equipment, we're wiping it down. And depending on how many people come through that day, because they're limiting it, you know, there's only so many people at a time. But depending on how many people come in that day and which equipment they use and how much exercise, we just know that there's going to be more wear and tear on our equipment. And there's a lot of metal in gyms. You know, the weights, the all of those things. It's just a lot of metal. And so the expectation when I go into my gym and work with my trainer is that it's clean. Their expectation of me is that I follow the rules when they say, please wash your hands when you come in. Please wash your hands when you leave. Please wipe down when you use equipment. Their expectation is that I have enough respect for them, for the service they're providing for me, and for the facility, and for my desire to be able to continue to use that facility, that I will respect the rules that they have put in place. Now, speaking of expectations, because with people going back to work, and the messaging is really different for me. People going back into work, there are some people who are saying, I don't even know how to go back into work. What is the responsibility of the organization, the company? We spoke with Ben Hall. He talked about the responsibility legally for the churches to let them know that, okay, we're in a COVID season. There's a possibility you can catch COVID by being in this service. And I know that a lot of churches may not know that there's a legal responsibility that they have to do. What is the responsibility as a business to say, okay, you come back in here But what is there some responsibility to let the people know how to come back in the business?
Right. So, and we had this conversation on a couple of webinars too, and I'm going to get Adrian back in here. So Adrian, see, if you're not listening to my show, Adrian, I think my feelings are hurt. So we'll get Adrian back in here, our resident lawyer, to come in and talk about some of this as well. But if you are a business and you're reopening your business, the expectations of your people are that you have created an environment that's safe for them to come back. Now, they may still be scared, but their expectation is that you are prepared for them to come back. Mm-hmm. Your expectation may be that they just come back. So you as a business, there are some things that you're required to do. Like if you're requiring people to wear masks, then it is your responsibility to provide those masks. Mm-hmm. Because not everybody can get access to them. And probably you as a business would have better ability to get access to some of that PPE. If you are going to maintain social distancing, then it is your responsibility to ensure that your facility is set up such a way that people can maintain social distancing. Mm-hmm. So if you've got one of those cube farms where the cubes are right next to each other, you either need to block off the ones in between or something so that people know where to sit. You know, if you've got one of those shared office spaces, I think about all these co-working spaces that popped up right before COVID. You know, WeWork and all of these places, local office and spaces that were all co-working. Like you just go, you can buy a day pass, you just sit wherever.
Oh wow.
You know, you can rent office space in there too, right? They're really great spaces. It's a great concept. Because if you don't want to buy an office space or rent a big office space, this is a place where you can just go for a day and they have Wi-Fi and you can print stuff. And they're really cool spaces. But what are they doing? Because they usually have a common kitchen. You know, they have the bathrooms there, of course. They have all these open areas where people can just grab a desk, grab a chair, grab a table. Are they limiting the people that can come in? What if you actually have an office there and the offices are right next to each other, but you've been paying rent for that office? Are they going to tell you now you can't come to your office? You know, so you as a business have a responsibility, and we talked about this before, have a strategy, have a plan. What is your plan to open up? Go slow to go fast. We are so busy to get back to business, and please don't get me wrong, people need to go back to work. People need to provide for their families. That's not what I'm saying. But don't move so fast and be so anxious to start money flowing that you end up hurting yourself in the long run because you have to shut down again.
Yeah.
Plan first. Proper prior planning prevents poor performance.
Say that slow.
Proper prior planning prevents poor performance. There's another P in there, but I'm not going to say that on radio. So,
wow.
You know, you really have to give yourself the opportunity and give yourself the chance to plan early. How are you going to have people back? Schools, Notre Dame, they're opening classes. The whole campus is opening classes. Notre Dame University for the fall. For the fall, they announced it this morning. They will be open for class, in-person classes in the fall. Okay, great, but so does that mean you're limiting class sizes? Does that mean you are also opening up dorms? Does that mean people still have to have roommates in their dorms? What does that look like? Right? And I don't know that they've actually put the plan out yet. They just said that they're opening up and they're finishing the plan. I know if I was a parent and I had a kid going to college, I'd be like, I need to understand. I need to understand how you're going to do that.
Because as you said earlier too about restructuring, and think about it, because when you talk about the shared office spaces, because the back rooms, I have really had done just to utilize it for that too. Yeah. People who want to rent a conference room, or people who want to rent an office. Well, we can't do that right now. And there's not wisdom to do that right now. We have the room for the club, for the comedy club. Plan for the grand opening for that. Switch that to now it's going to be online to do the comedy, and you still charge to do it because they'll do it. But I don't know if everybody's thinking of the other alternatives. And most people are just waiting for this to be over when we don't know how long this is going to really be. So how do you regroup?
We don't know how long. And, you know, and people are just ready for it to be over. People are just ready for it to be over. And when we get that impatient and we get that scared, right, and that nervous about what our future is going to be like, what our life is going to be like, we do just move quickly because we're trying to eliminate the immediate pain. And the immediate pain is, I need to work. I need to work so I can provide for my family, or I need to get out of my house, or whatever it is. And we're so anxious about stopping the pain that we don't always plan for the long term. And so again, expectations. The expectation is it's opened up. I can now eliminate this pain. I can now eliminate this pain. And when the pain goes away, then my life is going to be better. But one pain, if not managed appropriately, causes another pain. Maybe not immediately, but down the road.
You know, I like what you said, because there are people that are fearful that their jobs may be phased out. And I have a friend that's listening now from St. Louis, and she was an office manager. And she was like, okay, what's going to happen here? But they have sent people home permanently to work from home. And she still has her position. She's like, wow, I didn't think I would have it because I'm an office manager. But she brought value to the team. And they found out, yes, we don't need the brick and the mortar now, but we need the employees. And you guys have been doing a bang-up job working from home. So there are some places that are going to say, we're going to work now from home.
Google, all their folks are staying home. I think they said till the end of the year. Twitter just says people can work from home permanently.
Really?
Permanently. Yeah. Permanently. I was just having a conversation again, one of these women I talked to who also happens to be an HR executive. And we were just talking about that. We said companies can no longer say it's not possible to work from home. Those days are over. O-V-E-R-A. That's my grandmother used to say. O-V-E-R-A. Those days are over. Because we have now proven that it is possible to work from home. Now, you need to decide, if you're manufacturing or that kind of stuff, you can't do that from home, right? You got to be in a place, and you have to have a plan, again, of how you're going to keep people safe as they're producing product for your customers. But now it's a matter of planning for who you are and who you want to be. We are going to allow a level of flexibility for people to work at home, or we're going to require people to come in because our culture is one that face-to-face collaboration is really important. And we believe that relationships are developed by that face-to-face. And so for our company, we really want people to come back to work. We're going to do everything we can to make it a safe environment. Here's what we're going to provide for you. Here's how we're going to do it. However, we also are going to have a new policy around flexible work from home, right? So there is no one size fits all, y'all. But what I am saying is you got to have a plan. You got to be honest. Because if you're now saying it is not possible to work from home, you're not being honest, because it is.
That's true.
And we have shown that it is.
Sherry Duff in St. Louis is spelled out over.
O-V-E-R-A, right?
And so what about when the company decides, and it's hard to think about it, but I had a pastor just talked on the show, and she said even with her church, she found out that she didn't need as much on her church staff.
Yeah.
And I said, well, what about, Pastor, I've been with you over 20 years, and I understand that, but at the end of the day, this was an expense we now see we don't have. How do you make that happen?
That's one of the things that Adrian and I talked about, too, is that while this is not the time to deal with a performance issue that you just have been sitting on for years, you can do that, but there's risk associated with that. The reality is that these changes that have happened have forced businesses who are at least paying attention, forced businesses to look at their business, how they can do it efficiently and effectively with less. They've had to. And so what that means is going forward, they have seen, you know what, I don't need 40 people. I can do this with 20.
Yeah.
Or I can do it with 20 full-time and 10 part-time. Or I don't need 40 people to do this piece of the business, but I found another stream of income for my business during this episode, and I'm going to move people there. It's like a whole different line. So if you are trying to figure out what to do, go back to the basics. What is my strategy? What is my business? What am I going to start doing? What am I going to stop doing? What am I going to continue? Simple. That still works. It's all about strategy, because you don't know what to do with people until you know your plan. That's just the truth.
Yeah.
That's just the truth. You can make it up, and you can guess, you can throw spaghetti at the wall, and some of it's going to stick. But if you really want long-term success, if you want to be able to be flexible and be able to maneuver when things go wrong, you have to put a strategy in place that says, here is where I am today. Here's what I've learned. Here's where I'm going. And in order to get there, here's what I need. And that means this from a people standpoint. And then once you do that, you can have clear, open conversations with your folks to say, this is the strategy. And this is why. I'm not just letting people go just because.
Right.
This is why I'm doing that. And oh, by the way, if you're somebody like Airbnb, here's what we're going to do to help you. These are the other organizations I have partnered with who are still doing this type of business, who still need some people. Because y'all, folks are still hiring. They really are still hiring. Right. So don't just think nobody is hiring anymore. They are. People are still hiring. You just got to be active. Because they're not going to come to you. You have got to be active. You got to participate in the hiring process. You got to make yourself visible. You got to make yourself available.
Derek from the UK said, "Hi Jerry, I never thought I would go into the bank with a mask on demanding money."
Right?
I mean, because now what was frowned upon, of course,
I know,
terrified, is the new normal.
I know. It is so scary. I think about that all the time. I'm like, ooh, because I look like this, and this is a different experience with a mask on. I wake up with this every day, right? And so the perception of me walking into a place with a mask on, even in this day and time, is different than someone who doesn't look like me. And especially if you're a man.
Now, when you took the truth, because Attorney Ben Hall, who big baller shot caller, he said that don't matter. When he walks in at 6 foot something, with a mask on, they don't know him as super lawyer, Attorney Ben Hall. They just see a tall black man walking in. And he said he's had some situations, you know, with people looking and thinking something different.
So this whole thing is really challenging our biases. It's bringing them up front and personal. It is challenging them. I mean, you know, my friend's brother, he works for the CDC. He's amazing. He's in Atlanta. And he went into a liquor store the other day just to buy some stuff. And he's like, and the person gave him a hard time because he didn't have a mask on. And he's like, I'm a black man walking into a liquor store. How do you think that's going to go down? That's a legitimate question.
Yeah.
That's a legitimate question. And so, again, I'm not saying that everybody's out to get everybody. That's not what we're saying here. What we're saying is we all have to make choices. We have to make choices about whether or not to wear a mask in the first place, depending on what the rules are where you are. We also have to understand our own biases. If we are in a place that is of service to someone, a bank, a grocery store, a liquor store, a gas station, whatever, and we know that in our location, everyone is supposed to be wearing a mask, we got to check our own biases. You got to really have a good gut, and you got to trust your gut, because just because you see someone who looks like X does not mean that person is there to do you harm.
But you brought up an interesting point, because I see my son Kalen Jr. is on, and he's a police officer. So what is the responsibility, and I'm going to have him back on the show, what is the responsibility of the police officer? Because you could say they look like a suspect. But now we're in a COVID season.
Right.
How does that change? Because everybody looks suspect.
Everybody looks like a suspect. You know, again, so here's what I would say. And there's no one answer to this. There's no right or wrong answer, because, again, we are all human. We are all people, and we all have biases. We all have them. Now that we're all wearing masks, or many people are wearing masks, it is easy for those biases to take over and be front and center.
Yeah.
And so I think from a police perspective, they also have to use judgment. And we hope that they're using good judgment.
Yeah.
And I feel about them just like I feel about everybody. It's the 80-20 rule. 80 to 90% of people are there to do the right thing. And they're there to make really good decisions very quickly, as much as they can. It's only that small percentage of people that are out to do folks harm. And the problem is, those are the ones we hear about. And then we spread peanut butter and say, well, then everybody is whatever, right? So I think the challenge for police going forward is, not only am I saying that people who are making the claims need to check their bias, but any of those who are responding to those claims also have to check theirs, while being very cognizant of protecting themselves. Good morning, Laura. You have to have a balance. And unfortunately, for those who are charged with protecting us, they have to make decisions very, very quickly on sometimes very limited information and on their own experience. So again, as I've talked about before, every experience serves to build who you are today and how you respond. It serves to trigger your brain to say, I've seen this before, and when I saw that, this is what happened, therefore this is what I need to do. Right? So if your experience has been, because you are in a situation where you're always the one that's called to, I don't know, domestic violence situations. If that's what your experience has been, then when you see certain data points, you're automatically going to assume an outcome that may or may not be accurate, but your experience tells you it is, and you're going to respond accordingly. And so, you know, it's very difficult right now to manage our expectations around outcomes because things are so different. Yeah. Everybody's got a mask on. You know, they're starting to do the mask with like the plastic in the middle, right? So you can see people smile. Now, that's one of the outcomes. The other the people that first started doing that was because those who are hearing impaired and who read lips, how are you communicating? Especially with someone who doesn't sign. How are you communicating now? And so somebody had, again, innovation, had the idea of, you're still gonna wear a mask, but let's put something sheer and see-through in the middle so people can still communicate, right? So it's the same thing. It's about what are the expectations for safety? What are the expectations for interaction? What are the expectations about how we treat each other going forward?
Now, this is an HR question, I'm pretty sure, because we were talking about, and I'll say it, the Walmart store. And I noticed when I went in yesterday, and I don't like going there, but I noticed when I went in, that's the truth. I noticed when I had to go in there for something, I noticed that they only had the automated line open, and there were no rep cashiers anywhere. And I was like, I wonder what's happening. And then I noticed that even the stockers, they were rude. They were of another persuasion, and they had no mask, and they were laughing really at the people with the mask. So what is happening in the midst of this pandemic? Has there been a layoff? And I looked on Facebook this morning, and I saw a pastor friend of mine. He was talking about he doesn't believe that Walmart people are not having their mask on and this and this and that. And another person said, I'm a retiree of Walmart who just retired. And I'm telling you now, we're not provided with that. We're not really told to do that. And the people are rude. They've been abrasive. They've had people come in with no mask and purposely get close to them and try to touch them.
Right. You know, again, here's what I would say. People are interesting. And so, I don't want to spread peanut butter again, but it is not unusual to not have the best service at a Walmart or a Kmart or any other mart. Not because the people are not capable, but because the organizations do not put a premium on service. So if you are seeing that kind of behavior, that goes all the way back up to leadership. If you're saying, and you know that it's important to protect your people with masks and you are not providing them, that's the message you're sending to people. People watch your behavior, not your words.
That's real.
So if we're seeing rude, if we're seeing people not having masks, if we're seeing people laughing, if we're seeing, that's about leadership. Now, customers that come in and are talking to people and doing all kinds of crazy stuff, folks, they're just some crazy people.
Yeah.
You know, those are just going to be everywhere. But people that work for an organization that are not wearing PPE, that are not service oriented, that are not doing those kind of things, that's about leadership. That's about expectations. Because if I set up an organization and I am focused on service, then I am going to be monitoring the way they do service. And I'm going to manage behavior around the expectations. But if I'm focused on just low cost and high volume and all that kind of stuff, I don't care what service is, because what I'm trying to do is get people in and out the door and to buy my stuff. You get what you reward. You get what you measure.
That's real. But it was my go-to store at one time. I used to like taking a little browse around there or whatever, but it has, to me, changed because, or I'm seeing something totally different. Like I said, even the new line of workers they had in there didn't have masks on. And they were very aggressively laughing at people who were walking in with masks. As to say, this is so fake, this is not real. Now, I will give a shout out to the HEB. Because HEB has gone above and beyond the one that I've been going to over here around the radio station. You have a staff of people out there spraying down the carts for you, asking you what one you want. They have the sanitizer right before you get in the store, and they taking care of you to make sure you're good. And they are truly making sure that people are social distancing. Same way with Randall's. They're doing that and going above board.
Right.
So you may, in this pandemic, have to make some changes even with where you've been going.
Right, exactly. And here's the thing, we all have choices. We have choices how we treat ourselves, we have choices how we treat other people. But I just go back to leadership and setting expectations. You know, the theme for today. What do we expect? What do we expect of ourselves and what do we expect of people? And if you are not setting those expectations, you are going to get what you set up. You're going to get what you set up. And then to your question about, you know, all the self-service lines as opposed to checkers, you know, those self-service lines have really become the norm. And on the one hand, I'm one of the people that kind of likes that because I will run in and I'm like, I just got 2 things. Let me just get up out of here. I'm not trying to stand in line behind somebody with a basket full of stuff, right? It works my nerves. Mm-hmm. But the other side of that, the downside of any sort of progress and innovation is the impact to people, just like artificial intelligence, right? Mm-hmm. Just like any kind of automation. The more the self-checkout becomes the norm, the less need there is for actual people doing checkout, which ultimately impacts jobs.
I'm like you though. I like the self-checkout. I did. Mm-hmm. But I'm seeing the self-checkout actually, because what I saw yesterday with the dismiss of the employees, I don't even think it was because of the self-checkouts, because they've had that and most people were going in the line.
Right.
But now you got to touch all this stuff.
Yes, you do.
As opposed to going in a line where you could have a human person there that probably would wear some gloves or whatever. So now even the modern technology is posing a problem like, okay, now we got to touch this stuff.
Right. But here's what I've seen. Again, this was at the HEB. I haven't been to a Randall's in a long time. But I saw at one, they have the little self-checkout and everyone isn't open. I saw this at Target the other day too. Not everyone is open because they're really close to each other, right? So they opened every other one. But every time someone left, the person who was monitoring that area went and wiped down the keypad, wiped down the screen, every place your hand touched, they wiped down afterwards.
Where was this at?
This is at HEB.
Oh, of course they did.
And at Target. I saw it at Target too.
Okay.
And so, you know, it really is about kind of that goal to treat people the way you want to be treated. Mm-hmm. So what that tells me is they want customers to come back because they want customers to feel safe. They are trying to provide for the community and they're trying to provide for their employees. Because the longer they stay open, the more they can stay open, the more they can continue to get traffic in, the more likely they are to be able to continue to keep their staff on. So it is a bigger strategic conversation for them than just, oh, well, it's the right thing to do. And you know, we'll be on TV because we got masks, right? And we're wiping stuff down. It's a bigger strategic conversation. That's what I say about Walmart. It's about leadership. If you are truly thinking strategically, you are thinking about how am I going to continue to have my business go, which means I got to be able to have customers come back, which means I've got to be able to have people working here. And in order to do that, here are the things I need to do. If you're not thinking strategically, you're not going to make it.
And sometimes strategic thinking is not going to be popular thinking.
At all.
And there will be casualties in that type of thinking because if you're trying to make sure the whole team wins, sometimes you have to cut some of the teammates in order for the core teammates to make it or to survive. And that's what businesses are finding out they're having to do now. Even like I said with radio, I believe we're doing radio a lot differently now because it has to be differently now. And because it's a risk with being on mics and having guests like we normally would have in here. And so there's things, and even Attorney Ben Hall, he's calling in to do his show. So there are different things that you have to do in order to make sure everybody's safe and that the whole team wins, and not all the time is it going to be a popular decision, but it's a necessary decision if you want to survive in this season. So can you talk to that business owner who is having to make some hard decisions?
I would say, again, as we've talked about this, you need to go back to what your goal is. You need to go back to what your goal is. You need to be really clear about that. You need to not think, and this is going to sound counterintuitive, don't think about the people first. You need to think about the goal first. Get really clear on the goal and where you're trying to go. Then you need, so start with that strategy. Then determine what work needs to be done. Determine then what skills are needed to do that work. Then you think about, do you have the skills in your organization? If the answer to that is yes, then you look at the people. That's when you make a decision. You don't start with the people first. You always have the people in mind, but you don't start thinking about those individual people first because that's emotional. Strategy is not emotional. Strategy is tactical and business related. If it's emotional, you make decisions that you may not be able to come back from. And that doesn't mean you don't care. That doesn't mean you're not compassionate. That doesn't mean it doesn't matter to you what happens to your people. That's not what that means. That means you are doing something in a methodical way so that you can be as compassionate in your final decision as possible. And for employees who are worried about being the one on the downside of that, what are you doing to make sure you're shoring up your skills? What are you doing to make sure you are demonstrating that you are willing to jump in wherever needed? What are you doing as opposed to just sitting back and saying, well, wait a minute, what about me? What about me? Because a business owner has got to make a business decision. And that doesn't mean you won't be able to come back. That doesn't mean they won't be able to bring more people on at some point or change up their business or add another business line and that you may be back, with them. But right now, what are you doing to make yourself invaluable?
And like what you do, you have Zoom classes and you're giving people skills. You're teaching people how to update their LinkedIn pages and do all of that because all of that is necessary.
It's necessary.
Especially in this new season that we're going to be in because mostly everything is going to be electronic. And to get back into that. So I applaud you for that. But when you said about methodical and a leader and a strategy, and I see we're not having a lot of strategies even with the opening up. I have to be honest about that. But who I have seen, and at first I was a little bothered with him because he said something like, God didn't do this, but then I changed my mind, is a Como. Because he's really a thinker.
He's thinking. And you may not agree with what he's decided, but he is not only thinking long term about what he's doing, he has got the people in mind.
Yeah.
And he is being transparent about his thought process and why he's making the decisions he's making. And that's not popular. It's not popular to be transparent. People want you to be transparent and they want you to tell them what you're thinking. But then if they don't agree, right, then it's not popular. So you can be compassionate, you can be in your feelings, but you need to put that in the right place. Because if you're managing from your feelings, that's going to send you to a place you don't want to be. You can't manage from your feelings. You can't lead from your feelings. You can lead with your heart, but you got to act with your head. You got to act with your head, because if you act with your heart, you're not going to be able to recover from that necessarily as quickly or as well as you could if you had kept your heart in mind, but made actions based on what was logical.
Yeah, because I know for me, my heart wants, come on, let's all go back into team KCOH, but my head is saying that's not practical right now.
Right.
And as I'm looking at Derek in UK, he says it's going to take a long time to get back to any kind of normality.
Yes.
This is a tragedy for a lot of people. But when you look at the tragedy, there's also a triumph part of this, because I never would have thought we would have been conversing in the UK.
Right.
Thank
you, Derek, for being here.
You know?
Yeah.
And so now this is kind of opened up things to the worlds are coming together. And when I was seeing how they were doing some things in China, I don't know if you saw it, I shared this video, how methodically they're making sure they're spraying down some things. And how even when the children go back to school, they got the little helmets on and they're spraying them down. I'm like, my God, they got their stuff together.
Yeah.
But even when somebody from China said, we don't have it all together either.
Right.
And right now we need to all work together to make this happen, because the world is suffering with this.
The world is suffering. And, and daycares, I think, opened up today. Child care centers and stuff opened up.
Yeah.
So people need that, right? If they're going to go back to work. I mean, so if you think logically, okay, many people are not able to go back to work because they don't have child care. So one would think, well, okay, then that means we need to open up child care so people can go back to work.
That's smart.
And that's smart. And if you have a child care and you have 80 kids, how are you and little kids don't know how to stay apart? Come on now. Right?
They don't.
So what are you doing, right? How do you, again, it's about risk management. How are you managing that risk as best you can? Opening up to be of service, because that child care process is of real service to people. How are you opening up to be of service, but doing it in a way that minimizes risk? Are you going to have to take fewer kids? Is this an opportunity for someone who's always wanted to have a daycare to open one up, get your proper license in and all that, but to open one up because now there's more capacity, because you can't take that 100 kids anymore. unless you have a really big facility. And how are you going to divide them up, right? Or maybe this is an opportunity for some of those teachers that maybe they had preschools and the preschools are closed. They can go work at a daycare. So you can split kids, right? I don't know. There's lots of options.
What about bowling alleys?
Yeah, I don't understand.
I mean,
I don't get it.
So I don't.
I love bowling, but I don't know.
I'm sticking my clean, sanitized hands in this bowl, unless you're gonna buy your own bowling. But I just don't bowl that deep to do.
So I'm thinking, shoes and bowling balls.
About the shoes.
See, I can't. Yeah, I won't be bowling anytime soon. Because I'm like you, I don't bowl enough to have my own bowling shoes and my own bowling ball. That's not happening. So
and
I don't know.
theaters, but what I'm seeing, no, I won't say that.
Right.
But they're streaming. We can stream movies now.
I know.
What was the name of that documentary? I forgot. I tried to look for it this weekend.
The Black Godfather?
Yeah. Okay.
Oh yes. The Black Godfather with Clarice Avant. Yeah, I don't know when I'll go to a movie again, to be honest. I don't know when I'll go to a movie. Now, in full disclosure, I don't go to a lot of movies anyway. Because movie theaters make me kind of crazy.
What about restaurants? Do you go
I do go to restaurants. And I don't know when I'll go to another restaurant and sit inside. I'll sit outside, maybe. I don't know. I'm not ready yet. And not because of just fear. I'm just not, I don't know. I'm not ready to do that yet. I'm not ready to do that yet.
I saved a lot of money. Have you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm not ready to do it financially because
yeah.
I've saved a lot of money cooking.
Yes.
And we've eaten better cooking ourselves.
Yes. Much healthier.
Yeah, much healthier.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
there are some things that I don't care if it's gone. I may not want to return back to it.
Right.
But how do those businesses survive?
I know. And there are some restaurants that I really miss. I really miss where you can just go and go to happy hour, just have appetizers. And I do miss that. What I miss about restaurants is the fellowship of the people I go to, right? Or, on a Saturday, I would just take myself out to breakfast or something and just sit and read and have some coffee. And I do miss that, just being out of my house. But I think it's going to take a minute for me. I don't know what that means. That may be tomorrow. I don't know. Probably not.
Derek said he doesn't see a problem with bowling as long as we social distance. I'm saying putting your fingers in the bowling ball. I don't want to do that.
Yeah, how do they spray the little holes and then make sure it gets clean and dry? And I don't know.
So, and he also says testing is the important thing and hopefully a vaccine. I don't know how sure I am about the vaccine.
Yeah, so testing, we absolutely do need more testing, and we know that. I mean, all the science is showing us that. They were talking about a vaccine that's showing some promise this morning. They only tested, I think they said 45 people, so it's not even close to being the normal kind of trial. I think it's a good idea to have some kind of vaccine that would help with antibodies, just like we have a flu vaccine, we have measles, mumps, and rubella, we have all these kind of vaccines. I'm not a vaccines are bad kind of person. I think that's good.
No, I'm talking about the time
I'm worried.
frame.
Yeah, I am worried about this timing. From this standpoint,
yeah,
it seems really, really fast to me. Now, we need it to be speedy, but this seems overly fast to me. Or the other side of that is, have we been overly cautious in how long it takes to get vaccines over the years? I don't know the answer to that. It could be that it doesn't take years. We've just allowed it to take years.
Right? There's not one for HIV.
No, not a vaccine, but there are lots of drugs now, to manage it. So, although I thought I read something the other day where they were talking about a vaccine, but I could be wrong. I've been reading so much stuff lately. But, I don't know. It could be, I think it's really fast for me personally. And we'll see where they decide to start testing it. Because if they start testing it first in underserved communities, that to me harkens back to, Tuskegee and the syphilis experiments.
And that's my problem. That is why
that is a concern for me. My personal opinion, that is a concern for me. But I also, the other side of that, just from a business perspective and from a pharma perspective, is does it really take as long to get a vaccine as we've gotten comfortable with? I don't know the answer to that. Have we been overly cautious? Has it taken too long? Could we move faster? Any kind of innovation, they say that the key to true innovation is being fast to fail, right? Being quick to fail. The challenge with vaccines, I think, is that failure involves people's deaths, or really bad, bad interactions. So I don't know. Does it really take 10 years? Does it take 18 months? this is going to be what, 6-9 months if they're talking about end of year. That's really fast to me. I don't know that it takes that short a period of time, but I don't know that it takes 10 years either. And maybe it depends on the disease or the vaccine. I don't know. I just don't know.
President says we're opening up, vaccine or not. Now, here's going to throw a problem, a sling, and I want to see what you think on this. There have been plagues and diseases or whatever that we've gone and had to live with it and still move around.
Right.
So do you?
Right. I mean, we live with, flu all the time. We live with tetanus all the time. We live with a lot of stuff all the time. We live with a lot of people who don't believe in vaccines, and so we live with a lot of people who are not vaccinated. So we live with stuff all the time. We just do. It's just a function of being on this earth. I think the difference is each person's risk tolerance, our general decision as a country around how we prevent some things. Like to me, it makes no sense for people to be suffering with polio today. We've got a polio vaccine, right? The measles outbreak, I was just flabbergasted. That's been proven for decades. So I think we just have to, I think we have to be cautious. I think we have to try to get out of our emotions and get out of the politics, because this isn't about politics. This is about people's lives and livelihood. And unfortunately, when things get caught up in politics, it gets to be more about emotion than logical action. And I think that's unfortunately, that's where we're moving, because people are suffering. So you go to what you're hearing from is the extremes. The extremes are like, oh my gosh, we never need to leave. We all got to stay quarantined until 2021. And you have the other extreme that says, just go out. This is stupid. It's a hoax. And so those are the ones you're hearing. Very few people in the middle. Very few people in the middle. And that's normally what happens, is you hear from the extremes because they're the most vocal. I tend to be a person that's in the middle.
I'm in the middle too, because I know that it can't go on forever, that we can't stay sheltered in place like that forever. But I just believe that there are some processes, and for what I say, Como, he is the only one on television in leadership that I've seen that I'm kind of more believing he's more trustworthy to lead, because he's saying that, sterilize the subway, because nobody has really thought about, if you go back to work, the transportation system.
It's all about strategy. It's all about strategy, and so many people don't think strategically. They just don't, because it's not. The strategy is harder, takes longer, and so we want to move fast. We want to get back yesterday, right? And so that's what happens. That's what happens. We're over. So I think it gets back to, what do we really expect to have happen? What do we expect about going back to work? What do we expect our leaders to do? How are they going to be protecting us? What do we expect them to do around our protection? And then what do we expect of ourselves? What do we expect of ourselves?
Yeah, because if you're still going to go and they're not going to do what you need them to do, you still got to look out for you.
You've got to look out for you, and you may have to make a decision based on the information you have and your risk tolerance and your family that says you're going to have to pivot.
Quick question before we go. What businesses or careers do you think can merge at this time?
Ooh.
To be effective and still pull their resources together, and they could probably get the job done together, because that may be a solution. And some things are going to have to merge. Right.
I think you're already seeing a lot of that around manufacturing, because there are some processes that can be converged, right? And some products that can be converged. So that's more. I think there's lots of opportunity for certain types of businesses to combine and collaborate. The bigger issue is a legal issue. So if they have intellectual property around their manufacturing process, right? So that's what is going to more stop people from connecting and using resources and sharing resources, is going to be intellectual property, more so than the capability or the ability to share. But again, we're seeing. I think he was out of Florida. It was one of the. Was it a pharmaceutical company? I can't even remember. Actually had a protected, copyrighted or trademark process, and they just opened it. They gave it to everybody. They said, we spent a lot of money developing this. But this is really important right now, so we're just giving it to anybody. If you can manufacture it, here it is. All the details. He was out of Israel. All the details. So I think it is going to come down to kind of that risk tolerance. How much money did you spend to get your proprietary thing? Are you willing to lose some of that potential revenue going forward? What is the bigger, greater good for you? And only a business leader can decide that. Only a business leader can decide that.
Good stuff, Laura.
Thank you all for joining. I know we ran over today. Thank you for being here. UK, yay! Thank you, Derek. Thank you, Germany. Thank you, all of you guys who have joined from the US. I really appreciate you being here every Tuesday. We'll see you next time. Look for the webinar on Thursday. See you next week.
All right. Thank you.